All right, welcome back to the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast. This is Bryan. Sunday night. I'm here with Jay, rocking the Durham Bulls hat. I love it. Jay, what's up, man?
Always rocking the Durham Bulls hat. It's my favorite hat I've gotten in a while, and it was a gift from you and on a wager that I won. So it just feels that much better, really, wearing it around, especially on these pods with you. Kind of a reminder.
That's right.
Do not place wagers with me anymore.
That's true. Yeah, it was a wager on an NBA bet back at Christmas, right?
Yep. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of NBA, man, I'm not gonna lie. This first round's been brutal to watch.
I agree with you, but we've been placing some heavy jelly bean wagers on some of these games. Justin Pete had a particular heavy jelly bean wager on the Warriors, which was a little scary for a bit with the Curry injury. So it was a good sweat for the first half, and then things Pete runs well. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see sort of how lines move with this Curry potential.
I think they're done. Yeah, I think they're done.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like who, as far as whether the Spurs or the Cavs move like significantly, or whether guys are going to jump on their title odds. Interesting.
Definitely, yeah. I agree. But yeah, it was a good day. We got it's just starting. I feel like we got Game of Thrones, Silicon Valley tonight.
And definitely, if you're a beat person,
I'm not, but I'm sure it's good. I've heard good things.
Yeah, no, it's a good show.
Loaded now.
Yeah, Beyonce's album dropped on HBO. HBO is busy this weekend. Wow,
killing it. It's taken over.
Yeah, they got the Beyonce video, Lemonade, and then they got the 3 shows tonight. Gosh, I mean,
man, just rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're like the FantasyLabs of TV.
Yeah, no, and Game of Thrones leaked like 2 hours ago.
Oh, really?
Took everything I had. Yeah, it took everything I had to not watch it, but I held myself back. I'm gonna enjoy it with the rest of the world. I figured. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna watch it later tonight once it drops on Go, HBO Go.
Right. Yeah, we'll get to that later, but let's jump onto this.
You want to talk MLB? Yeah, we can talk MLB.
Yeah, a little bit. All right.
I guess that's what we're here for. Yeah. Let's talk MLB. So I guess it's a nice sort of time of year. I don't mind day games actually. It is nice because like my job is fantasy, so I like have time where I can like write and think and research day games, but I understand that people don't necessarily have that opportunity. So it is nice to have slates that are kind of just night games, which we have. I think, and obviously tomorrow, but I think it's going to be sort of the case the rest of the year.
We're on a starting to hit a more normal schedule where most days are mainly night slates. You got some split slates on Thursdays, and then obviously Sundays, mainly day games. So I think it'll get easier as a player to kind of manage the multiple slates and narrow it down a bit, but still have options. So we're not really having huge overlap every single night because of the split slates. Yeah,
and it is tough as a player because you're going to have to like the first 3 weeks of the year, like we've been, you have to manage lineups that are always coming in and moving lines and like trying to figure out like how slates differ, like whether you want to pay up for pitching, strategy changes on these different slates. It's tough. I get it. But yeah, I think it is going to normalize a little bit, which is good. So let's jump into this slate. There's no day games tomorrow, like we said, so all night games starting at 7:00. So we'll kind of dive into that and give our favorite plays and stuff. Starting with Vegas, we'll kind of just quickly touch on this. We have Colorado at Colorado, so that's always kind of the high totals of anytime they play. Of course, so sort of high lines right now is the Rockies are at 6.1 implied runs. Their opponent, which is the Pirates, are at 5.6, and then kind of dipping down, the next highest team is Detroit at 4.5. So really significant difference, obviously, between Colorado and even the third place team in Detroit. So really the difference between Colorado and Detroit is almost as big as Detroit and really anyone else. So I do think that's important to know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with Coors Field being on the slate, you got to start there, kind of decide how you want to attack it and distribute exposure via cash game options in the game. And I think you want some tournament exposure, of course, with kind of just the high total. So,
Yeah.
we've been talking a bit off air about how we expect some of these guys to be so highly owned,
Yeah.
and then we play in these tournaments and they're like 5% owned. So I think a lot of people might be overanalyzing it and just automatically assuming that everybody will be on them because the total, is like 2 runs higher than any other total. So I think a lot of people are just kind of fading it a bit. So where you're getting decreased ownership, and we kind of saw today at Coors Field what's capable of happening more often than not. So I'm on the side where if these guys are going to continue being this low owned, I'm stacking Coors Field every single time if I'm going to get that ownership.
Yeah, and that is something that I've noticed for sure. Because I'm a multi-entry guy, and I primarily play tournament. So obviously, anytime Coors happens, I have exposure fairly significantly to both sides. Obviously, if it's warranted. If it's not, like the other night, I was telling you off air that I really liked Meta for the Dodgers pitching. So I had less exposure for Colorado as I usually would. But in those sort of situations, I usually have high exposure. And yeah, we've been kind of talking off air where it's just interesting. Like we had Howie Kendrick, is an amazing batter, but he was hitting in the 6th spot for LA team that was projected at almost 6 runs, and he was 1% owned in the big FanDuel tournament. 1% owned.
It's been crazy, man. Arenado's price is so high; he's under owned. It's just a lot of these guys are not getting looked at that hard, and I mean, it's not going to come through every night. But if they continue to be this low, I think of course, these games are generally a lot more high scoring. So I think your chances are high of hitting if you stack these teams, especially in some of these tournaments that have cushy first place prizes. So you only need one win to kind of make up for everything. So
I don't really understand it, and some of these guys aren't even really that highly a guy like Arenado, Story, those sort of guys are going to be priced up. That's just how it's going to be.
For sure.
But some of these other guys, lower in the order, are not. We're going to get into I have one in my value.
Yep.
And Kendrick, the guy I was talking about, was 1% owned. Wasn't expensive. It's just I don't know if guys are overthinking it or they're just not going down into the lower part of the order. I'm not really sure what the reason is, but if I can get any guy that's hitting at Coors Field, that's what. If you were playing, if they put you in the 6th spot for Colorado, I would take more than 1% myself.
Yeah, I think I'd still be 3,800, 3,900 probably, but I think I'd be good value too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would. Yeah, I would load up on some J. Yeah, it's been weird. So I definitely think that is something to obviously monitor. I do think it is really plus EV to take that game in tournaments. For whatever reason, I don't understand why it's plus EV. It seems like it shouldn't be, but I think it is. So I think that's a good sort of place to start. But in the meantime, let's kind of get to our segments. And obviously, I think that'll be a major theme throughout, especially when we get to our batters. But we'll obviously go through our segments as well. So I'll kick it to you, Jay. Give me 2 intriguing pitchers that you're looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at Slate at first, the 2 pitchers that stand out to me probably the most are Noah Syndergaard and Madison Bumgarner. And these are 2 guys I'm looking at in cash. I'd probably want to go one of the 2 in cash. Both very high strikeout rates, easy matchups. But for intriguing pitchers, one guy I'm really looking at is Taijuan Walker. He's a pitcher, just kind of the makeup of pitchers. You kind of look at him, he's one I'm very high on overall. He's still only 23. I think people might think he's older, so I think he still is progressively getting better. I like his stuff a lot. The only thing kind of holding him back the last few years were his high walks, his command issues. And you kind of look at this season so far, and command has not been an issue at all for him, which I definitely like to see. So you really look at kind of the way he's been pitching, and the strikeouts haven't been there. But he does have, an 8.2 K per 9 rate, which I think is very respectable, especially as kind of a tournament pivot, kind of getting value out of a guy who can go deep into a game, limit his walks, get 8 or 9 Ks possibly. So he's a guy I'm looking at a bit, especially as a contrarian play with kind of the 2 guys I just highlighted, I think having decently high ownerships. And then you kind of add in the Astros have the 3rd highest team strikeout per 9 rate. So Taiwan at his price point is a very nice contrarian play. And then the other guy who's probably a bit shockier for sure than Taiwan is Chris Archer. I think a lot of people, when they're paying up, will kind of be paying up a little bit more to afford Bumgarner or Syndergaard. So I think Archer will kind of be the lowest owned guy out of them, and I like that for tournament purposes. Kind of getting a guy at low ownership who has similar upside, 11.1 strikeouts per 9, which is the highest on the slate of any starter. So those are kind of the two pitchers I'm looking at for tournaments.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. The first guy you mentioned is going to be my first guy to talk about, Syndergaard. He's so good. He's just ridiculously good. I think him and Arrieta are probably the two best pitchers in baseball right now. It's hard to say Arrieta is not the best pitcher in baseball, but I think Syndergaard is like up there as well. It's just from stats wise, he has a 10.41 K per 9, so he has just as much upside, obviously, as any pitcher. If you look at his 3 starts this year, he's been at 54 DK points or higher in those first 3 games. That seems okay. That seems like I'm okay paying up for that. He's a monster. Cincinnati's not a offense that I'm scared of by any means. We talked about them last week as an intriguing offense, and then they've just stopped.
Man, brutal.
I'm ready to target them on the pitcher side after screwing me up on the batter side. Syndergaard's he's ridiculous. He's going to be my stat of the day, so I don't want to give that away, but I'll tease that saying that I just think Syndergaard's really good, and I'll get into more kind of why he's so good, especially this year in the stat of the day just a little bit later. And the other guy that I think is intriguing is Salazar. I think he has a lot of upside as well. He has a high K9 rates at 9.61. And really, I think the reason that I am intrigued by Salazar is because he's facing the Twins. We saw Washington face the Twins in the series, before this, and Tanner Roark, it turned into turned into Jake Arrieta against the Twins. So the point is, the Twins are just really, really bad, and strikeout are like crazy recently. So a high K guy, a guy who has the potential to make guys whiff facing the Twins, I think is just a really good tournament play right now until the Twins can prove that they're not just awful on offense. So
I agree.
Any guy that can strike out and is going against the Twins, I think is a good play. Cool. Give me a guy to fade.
All right, guy I have to fade. I think a lot of people are going to kind of look and see the Braves as a really easy matchup to target and to pick on, and they usually are for most pitchers. But I think when choosing starting pitchers, we don't want to look at the opponents. I definitely want to look at the pitcher's skill sets, obviously, and I don't like the strikeout downside that Porcello has to kind of offset the easy matchup. Even when you kind of break down the matchup, the Braves aren't a team that generally strikes out a lot anyways. So even if Porcello throws 6 to 7 shutout innings, I'm not expecting strikeouts to come with it to kind of compete with some of these other top-tier guys who have higher, even like approachable floors than Porcello's ceiling almost. So I don't see a situation where I'm going to play Porcello on this slate, especially in tournaments. So he's a guy I'm pretty comfortable fading.
Fair enough. My guy that I'm going to fade, and maybe you can tell me why I shouldn't, because he was one of your guys that you wanted to target. Archer, I get that he has the K upside. I mean, he's over at 11. I get it. But he's really struggled this year. I think we can agree on that. His first 3 starts have been awful. He has not even made it, past 5 innings in the first 3 starts, just getting knocked around like crazy. He's given up 6 runs in 2 of them, and the other one he gave up 2 earned runs against Cleveland. Just hasn't been that great, and so I get that you could potentially try to look more into the advanced stats, and that's what I do in situations like these and say, okay, is it him? What sort of situation is it? And then so I look into the advanced stats, and his velocity is down. He's down, at least a mile per hour this year against the last in recent average pitch velocity. So in that situation, I don't want to get tied up in recency bias. I don't want to like just fade Archer because he's been struggling. But looking at his velocity and just sort of how he looked, it's hard to get excited about him, even with the strikeout potential. I mean, he was striking out guys the last 3 games, and it kind of matched up to where his K9 was. I mean, he was going 5 innings and striking out 6, 7 guys. The problem is that the rest of the guys he wasn't striking out were all just getting hits on him. So Archer, I just until he gets, I don't know, until that whip gets a little bit better for me. I get the strikeout potential, but I don't think he gets guys out right now, and the velocity just concerns me. So he's my fade.
No, that's fair. Why you got to pick on my guys, man?
I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, I mean, a lot of those reasons are obviously valid, but there are also reasons why I think he's a good tournament play, because he still does have upside.
He does.
Kind of look at this so far, and yeah, it's been really bad. But in situations like that, it kind of makes me like him more because his ownership will be down. He still offers upside, like you said. He is getting those strikeouts, so you kind of factor in defense maybe picking it up, some guys not hitting balls through the gap on ground balls, so stuff like that I think plays in his favor. If the strikeouts are there and he's not giving up a lot of hits, then that's kind of where the upside lies.
Yeah, that's true. That you're not going to find a guy with his probable low ownership that has his sort of strikeout potential. So I agree that the tournament, he is really nice. Okay, give me 2 intriguing batters that you like.
One batter I like a lot on the slate is Jordy Mercer. 348 WOBA against lefties. He's been hitting leadoff recently against lefties. Pirates are implied to score 5.5 runs. Definitely like getting exposure to this game in both cash and tournament formats. Mercer's kind of a guy I'm looking at in cash more so. Jorge De La Rosa has a little bit of illness right now. He might not pitch in this game, but Chris Russin will likely pitch if De La Rosa sits, and Russin is a lefty as well. So I think either way, we're counting on Mercer to hit leadoff, and you add that WOBA to both pitchers there. And either way, regardless of who starts, the Pirates are going to be implied at a lot of runs playing at Coors Field. So, I think he's kind of my cash option in this game where I'm looking to get exposure. Which brings me to my second player who I like a lot is Nolan Arenado, who you've shouted out quite a few times on this pod.
Love him.
Now I got to get a piece of it. So yeah, I think more than anything, it's Arenado's high price. I think he is getting low ownership because it's so difficult to afford him and still kind of get a lineup that you like. So facing a lefty as well for Arenado, who's had success throughout his whole career. I think his ownership will be a bit decreased. He has a .503 slugging percentage against lefties. Rockies are implied to score 6 runs, which is the highest on the slate overall. So it's kind of comes down to Mercer being exposure in this game. I'm looking at cash because he's a bit more affordable. And then Arenado is probably my top tournament play, given his ownership and his upside.
Yeah. Again, like we said, these guys have been really low owned for whatever reason. So yeah, I love Arenado any night, but especially he's going to be low owned and they're going to be projected for over 6 runs. Love that dude. My 2 guys, the first guy I'll talk about is McCutchen. The dude is a monster. He's been an MVP candidate the last several years. He's really good. I think he's been a little just kind of like in the shadows this year. I don't know. But he's been hitting the ball really well. If you look at his advanced stats, he has a different distance differential. So he's been hitting so distance we measure how far a guy hits the ball on average. And we can measure the last 15 days compared to the last year. He's been hitting 9 feet farther on average. And actually distance differential out of a lot of our advanced stats, hard hit percentage, fly ball percentage, ground ball percentage, all that stuff. Distance differential is actually one of our most predictive advanced stats in terms of recent versus long term. So that really stood out to me. A guy who's already really talented, has a good situation as far as advanced stats go. And obviously he's playing at Coors Field, so that's always good. So McCutchen, I think, is not really that I'm not like shocking anyone by saying that I think he's a good play. But yeah, he's a good play. I think he's an easy cash target for sure. The other guy that I like is Mike Trout. I did want to get a little bit off this game just because it's easy to just kind of take guys in the Colorado-Pittsburgh matchup and just say, hey, load up on these because, I mean, obviously they're projected for a lot of high runs. Mike Trout, I think is interesting because I think that he's been sort of like McCutchen in the shadows to Bryce Harper this year. Bryce is just crushing the ball. He's probably the best player in baseball for this year. And Trout has been kind of the guy that we've said is the best player in baseball for the last couple of years. And I think we're not necessarily quick to crown Bryce as the best player in baseball. It might be warranted. I'm not sure. I think Trout's still really good. And Trout has been trouting more lately. He's had 23-point DK games the last couple. He's looks like he's been seeing the ball better, been hitting the ball harder in the last 3 games. And if I can ever get Trout in any time in my life under-owned because of people either looking at this Colorado-Pittsburgh game and trying to get guys in that game, or because they're looking at Bryce or whatever reason, if I can ever get Mike Trout under-owned, I'm on board for that. So I just think that he's kind of just an intriguing spot right now where I'm buying shares of Trout.
Agree.
And just going to focus on him as much as I can.
Cool.
Cool. Give me a couple FanDuel value bets.
Yeah, one guy I'm looking at, I've had him a few times. He's, I guess, technically out of our value threshold. He's 3,100, but I still think it's good value, and I think he'll be under-owned. Is Mitch Moreland again. 363 WOBA, 239 ISO against right-handed pitching. I kind of generally do like to target him, especially as tournament play against right-handers. Rangers, I don't think they have a team total out yet, but I like targeting Nathan Eovaldi, a guy who has a really, really high whip consistently. He has the second highest whip on this slate, actually. So I kind of like the Rangers overall in this spot a bit. Obviously, has a favorable park factor. He's got a good price. And then I think he's a good tourney pivot off some of these higher-owned guys, especially in the Coors Field game. We expect, at least until we kind of see that they're all like 3% owned. But as of now, I think they'll be a bit higher. So Moreland as a tourney pivot is a guy I'm looking at. And then a bit more for cash probably is Brandon Drury, 392 WOBA against lefties. He's been hitting in the 2-hole against lefties lately. I don't necessarily like targeting Jaime Garcia, but at just 2,300, I think given the slate and given kind of Syndergaard and some of these expensive pitchers we want to pay up for, Bumgarner even, that you're going to need value pretty badly. So Drury hitting second is a guy I'm looking at saving salary relief quite a bit, so you can kind of pay up for a pitcher. And then Diamondbacks they are projected to score 4.3 runs currently, so that's pretty mid-tier, if not high, on this slate overall. So I'm fine getting some Drury exposure.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The first guy I'll mention on DraftKings that I like is Tony Wolters. He is projected to start a catcher for Colorado. We assume so Dustin Garneau got the start today, but we would assume that Wolters is going to be back tomorrow. Yeah,
I'm projecting him to start for sure. I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, so it's tough. I don't think Garneau or Walters are either that great. But I mean, like it's like we've talked about, like 6.1 runs is just so much higher than any other game. It's so much higher than Pittsburgh, which is so much higher than Detroit. And so I think you just have to get exposure anywhere you can. I love, especially this year, I talked about it in the pod that I did with Cabe last week. I really like doing stacks, but not really stacking 1, 2, 3, 4. I like doing 1, 2, 4, 5 or something like that. So I actually like getting sort of exposure to Arenado and Story, but also just skipping a couple guys and getting to a guy I can also afford. So you're still getting 4 or 5 guys in from the game. You can just afford them a little bit better and still get elite pitching, and you're still getting upside of a stack. So I do think that's interesting. Walters is an amazing batter, but he's cheap and he's in the game.
Yeah, he's dirt cheap. No, I like the call a lot.
Yeah. So I'm talking DraftKings. Obviously, he's 3,300. I actually think he's a better value on FanDuel. Like he's like 2,400 or something on FanDuel.
Yep.
Something like that. Yeah, ridiculously cheap. Another guy I like is Adam Lind. I assume that he's going to play for Seattle. And the reason I like him is just because I like to target Doug Fister. When he pitches, he gives up so many home runs. He just
Oh
It
yeah.
just seems like he gives up a home run just like every other at bat. I mean, it's not that bad, but point of the story is he gives up a lot of home runs. So I obviously like looking at sort of projected lineups against him whenever he's pitching. Is try to see a guy that has some power potential, ISO or slugging, and also is cheap. And I think Adam Lynn fits that. I think he might hit in about the sixth hole, which isn't as great. We usually like to have 4 or 5 guys, but I think that he does have positive splits against right-handers. He's a lefty, and I think at his price point, getting the sort of power potential against Fister, who lets up a lot of home runs, as a very contrarian play away from Colorado and Pittsburgh, I think is an interesting spot, to say the least. So I wouldn't go in the cash, but I do think he's an interesting value play on either side as well. Trying to get off that game in tournaments for sure. Cool. Let's keep on moving. Let's go to stack of the day. Who you like as a stack?
I think a sneaky stack I'm looking on this slate is the Rays. I think they're kind of going to be a bit overlooked. I like getting 1 through 4 of this lineup, maybe 2 through 5, or like you just touched up on, mixing maybe 1, 3, 4, 5, something like that. Just getting pieces kind of the top 6, I'd say, of this order. I like getting a piece of Kevin Gossman, who's making his season debut. I think a lot of these guys are going to be very under-owned on the slate. They have a favorable implied run total, but nothing too high overall. So I think they'll be overlooked. And then I think that adds a lot of value on a slate with a Coors Field game where people might gravitate towards that. So I think there are a lot of factors that are driving ownership down with these Rays hitters that I think have upside against a pitcher making his season debut.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the guys that I really love, and he was going to be one of my bats, one of my value bats, honestly, at DraftKings, but I feel like I talk about him every pod because I really hyped him up last week, is Dickerson, your old boy from Colorado.
Yeah, man. Exactly.
He's been crushing the ball, dude, this year. Yeah. He finally paid off with some power last week, and he's getting Gossman this week. And I really do like that Tampa Bay call. And Corey, I think, is a big part of sort of that middle of that lineup. He projected him forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like him a lot. My stack of the day is going to be the Indians, and I think it's interesting. Bales did a video on this team value rating that we have this year. So it's sort of looks at where Vegas implies a team and where their salaries are as far as like whether you want to get a stack. So obviously Colorado is a very good stack at their 6.1 implied runs, but they're sort of priced up according to that stack. I still think that they're underpriced relative to the slate. So I do think that stacking Colorado is a very good move, especially with the ownership percentage. But if you're kind of just judging, stacks and team potential in Vegas runs as compared to their salaries, I do think it's interesting because you're obviously going to have to fit pitchers and other guys in. So I think the team value rating is just a really interesting way to sort of look at that. And the Indians are actually just the second highest. They're right below Colorado. Colorado has a team value rating of 80. And Cleveland is right there at 78. So while they don't have the 6.1 potential, they're obviously projected to score a lot of runs as well. They're over 4. And they're affordable. So I do think that you could get them a really good stack with Cleveland and also get the guys that we talked about, whether you want to get Syndergaard or Walker or Archer, if you want to get those sort of bats in or those sort of pitchers in while also getting a high upside stack, whether it's Cleveland or I think Tampa Bay has a good team value rating. I do think it's going to be interesting to sort of juggle the elite pitchers with elite batters tomorrow. Usually there's actually been a lot of slates where you've had kind of either or. Tomorrow we really have a good mix of both, I think.
No, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it'll come down to mixing matching these high-priced pitchers with under-owned stacks people aren't looking at, and then vice versa, getting the expensive stacks and finding those value pitchers. So I think it really works out. That's kind of how the slate will play out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's keep on moving. We only got 2 quick segments. Stat of the day. Let me hear yours.
Stat of the day I got is Logan Forsythe with a hard hit percentage of 59%, which is the highest out of any regular player on the slate. So yeah, he's just crushing the ball lately, really, and he's had some nice games lately. It's kind of coming through, paying off a bit. But just the fact he's hitting the ball so hard, it kind of goes perfectly with my stack of the day as well. Him obviously being the leadoff hitter and playing into the stack where I want exposure to him in tournaments. He's not really a guy I'm looking at too much in cash, but definitely, my stack of the day, and then you add the stat of the day. I mean, that's like a superpower. So I'm expecting good things from Forsyth. So,
yeah, and he's min priced, I think, on FanDuel, right?
I don't think he's min priced, but yeah, he's cheap. He's very cheap.
Yeah, super cheap. He's like 22. Actually, I'm gonna look this up. I know this is like not.
I don't think he's that cheap. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, he is 35. Okay.
30.
I don't
Okay.
know what I was thinking.
34. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. No, but I do like him. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why I'm not going to cash him. He's not that cheap, so
Yeah.
I don't think you're saving a ton of value. But I do like him as more of a stack play.
Yeah. Out here. Yeah. The Forsyth Dickerson combo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think for stat of the day?
Yeah. Stat of the day. I hinted at this before I was talking about Syndergaard. His average speed. So we measure his average velocity. So this is average speed. This is not like average fastball speed, which I think would still be ridiculous if I was about to give this to you. This is average speed of all pitches. So fastballs, breaking balls, everything. His average speed is 98.3 miles per hour. I don't get how a player's average speed is 98.3 miles an hour. Like, what? How is that possible? How is it average when he's throwing other pitches?
Because his slider's like 91. I mean, yeah, he throws his off speeds at 91, 92. And then
he's throwing it like 102.
It's incredible. Yeah, I don't know how people hit him, really. It's
well, they don't.
Yeah, it's like Randy Johnson style. He just throws every pitch so hard that
he's so good.
Really difficult. So
yeah,
it's a crazy stat.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to really get into any more than that. Syndergaard, I talked him up in the pitcher spot. And the big part of I love him. He's just so good. He throws the ball so hard. He's obviously just got so many good pitches, and he just whiffs everyone. He's amazing. Yeah, just play him for sure. Okay, let's finish up with bold call.
All right, I'm actually doubling down on my bold call. I had this exact same one with you last time. It did come through, but I'm saying that a Coors Field stack won't ship some of these large field tournaments, the largest ones. I do like being contrarian on this slate in the large field tournaments, but I like getting a lot of Coors Field exposure in perhaps these a little bit smaller, higher buy-in turns where I do think people overanalyze the ownership levels where you can kind of just throw them in and hope for a high cash if this game goes off. But my bold call is that, a Rocky stack won't ship like the Slam, some of these high tournaments.
Like it.
High entry tournaments.
That's bold. I like it. My bold call, it's kind of going off I'm trying to figure out where public bias is. And I kind of mentioned this with Trout, where I just think that people are sort of missing, just how good he is overall. And, I think he's coming back into recent form. So mine is that, especially with sort of the recency bias and the fact that we have Colorado at Colorado and Pittsburgh playing them, Josh Donaldson's facing a lefty, and we haven't even mentioned him in this.
I know.
That's just like an auto play. Anytime Donaldson faces a lefty, especially at Toronto, at Batters Park, it's like you just automatically play Donaldson. And we didn't even mention him because of all the other great plays.
Are you double-donging Donaldson? Is that your bold call?
That wasn't going to be my bold call, but let's do it. Let's double-dong him.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Double-dong Donaldson, and I think he's going to be under 12% owned.
Yeah, and that's a lot of value, a lot of upside there at that percentage. I actually do have one more bold call.
Okay.
My bold call is that the Silicon Valley premiere tonight will be better than the Game of Thrones premiere.
Wow. Yeah, that's as bold as it gets, I will say that.
Yep. Sticking with it. Haven't seen either as of this filming. So,
I think in Veep, you're not on yet.
No, but you can throw a bold call if you want on that.
I don't know. I don't have a bold call. I do think Veep is really good. It is very entertaining. HBO is just the GOAT.
Yeah.
They are good. I don't know if I can agree with the Silicon Valley call, but I respect the boldness of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bold.
It is bold.
It's very bold.
I like it. Okay. We will end it there. We're going a little bit over, but I thought it was a good pod. Cool. So yeah, Colorado at Colorado is always fun slates. But I think we kind of touched on sort of the interestingness of the slate. We have elite pitchers and elite bats, and really high projected total games. Guys that are potentially undervalued, like Trout and Donaldson. I think it's a really, really interesting slate. I'm looking forward to playing it, and I hope that we sort of broke it down and made it a little bit easier for you guys.
Agree. Yeah, it is a great slate. I'm going to be posting some cash games tonight, fire at some tourneys, get exposure here and there. The only advice really I'll leave you guys with is to pay for your pitching in cash games.
Yep, I 100% agree with that for sure. Definitely. Cool. We will end it there. Jay, thanks, man. Have fun tonight with the boys. And yeah,
always.
Just Jay fans in town. Yeah, that's always a good time.
Yeah, we got a crew. Gonna go get some dinner. It's gonna be a good night for sure. But yeah, good luck everybody on this slate. We'll get with you guys next time.
Cool. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next slate. All right, see y'all.